Everything's going perfect. Yeah.
Are you?
Training a little bit less, obviously, because of the nature of things, but still trying to get in what I can get in.
Is the gym closed there for you, or?
Man, we just have the comp team, the competition team, come in there and train once or twice a day.
Okay, so it's not that bad. At least you're still getting some training in. I'm in Halifax, Canada, so
Uh,
where everything's locked up. You can get fined if you're at a gym or anything like that. You get
really?
fined $1,000 Canadian, but $1,000.
The,
So not
hopefully it doesn't get that bad here in Alabama.
yeah. Hopefully, and how are things there with the fight? I mean, obviously that fight's you're supposed to fight next weekend.
Yeah, man, I have no idea what the deal is now. So, just like myself and probably everybody else in the UFC, we're kind of just waiting to hear word, but really can't do much until then. So,
I mean, what would happen if you got a call? Like 249. Are you good to go? Was that? Have you considered that? Like, if they need someone last minute, is that something you'd be willing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. They know that I'm ready and I stay ready, and whenever they call, we just talk about a little bit of money, and I show up.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think a lot of your fights have been short notice. So I think you were on a 2-fight losing streak, and you took a fight on short notice anyway. You took the Thiago Santos fight on short notice. I think that's kind of like one of the things that I admired most about your career was you stayed ready. You took fights. I've been a fan since the Lyoto Machida fight, um, which I thought you won, by the way.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So what? I guess you've fought all over the world too. You fought in Canada. You fought in Brazil twice. How does your training change if when you compete in these other countries?
It really doesn't change too much. I get out there a little bit earlier because, sometimes the foreign countries don't have all the amenities that America has, like Epsom salt and, things like that. So I have to find another way to cut weight and whatnot. So, and I put on, some weight, retain some water and fluids and stuff whenever I fly. So, I travel in a little bit early to get acclimated a little bit and find everything that I need to find for that, final weight cut.
So is it something that would impact your decision on whether or not you took a short notice fight, let's say at 249, for example? If they were like, "Hey, man, we got a fight. It's in Russia," uh, would that stop you from taking it, or?
Um, Man, I would probably still take the fight, but I would ask for like a catch weight or to fight at 205. And if those two things couldn't happen, then I would just, thug it out and make weight.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I guess we'll do a little bit of a throwback here. So you played football, right, for the Crimson
Yeah, yeah,
Tide.
that's right.
So you want to talk about that a little bit and how you naturally transitioned, I guess, into MMA. You see
Um,
more football players doing it now with guys like Greg Hardy, and I think a lot of people question, those football players moving into MMA. What sort of skills did you learn as a football player that helped in your MMA career?
Man, playing linebacker, I don't think that really correlates to MMA too much. Maybe if you play like running back or like a skilled position that requires like a lot of footwork and um, things like that. I think transition a little bit better. Greg Hardy's a heavyweight, so just being athletic, period, as a heavyweight is a big plus. So that works out well for him. But I would say that the main thing that football taught me was how to compete. Especially when Saban got there, it didn't matter if you were a true freshman or a fifth-year senior. You had to earn your spot every week, and that's just kind of the approach that I take to the training room as well. Going out there, competing against training partners and things like that to level up, get better, and then to ultimately put it all in the cage and go compete in the cage.
You spent some time in the CFL, correct?
Yeah, yeah, with
Yeah.
Calgary Stampeders.
Yeah. As a Canadian, how'd you like Canada?
Man, Canada was cool, man. It was more American than I thought. Maybe not American, but like more English than I thought. I didn't know much about Canada before then. I thought, it was like 50-50 French and, people that speak French and English, whatever. But, it was definitely more, especially on that side, I guess, the West Coast. There was the only way I could tell that I was in Canada was some of the signs would be in French. Other than that, I felt right at home.
Yeah, you'll find that I guess football isn't as big in Canada, but one thing about especially Calgary fans is passion. Passionate about anybody who represents, whether it be one of their team or their country. How was it competing in Canada against a Canadian when you fought Elias Theodorou?
Oh man, the Canadians are probably the most friendly people on earth. Not one person said a bad thing to me or about me, at least in my face, anyways. And they were pretty nice online afterwards as well. But if you go fight in Brazil, they tell you you're gonna die on the way to the cage. When I fought Theodoro, I think we fought on the undercard. So man, you lose, you go back there, took a shower, got dressed, and watched the rest of the fights in the stands with with my wife and kids, and everybody was just so nice, like overly nice. I kind of felt like that they were being not fake, but like y'all overdoing it a little bit. But I think it's just a Canadian thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a couple cards here as a fan, and both in Halifax and Moncton, and it doesn't really matter where you're from. If I see you, like, oh my God, like you're now my new favorite fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's
was
the
I
vibe I
was
got up there.
I was rooting against Anthony Smith when he fought Volkan Oezdemir, and I saw him before the fight, shook his hand, and instantly, like, Anthony Smith is now my favorite fider. Doesn't matter where he's from.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool how Canadians have that, whereas places like Brazil, complete opposite.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you said, you're gonna die on the way to the cage. Guys like Matt Brown flipping everybody off. It's definitely not wise to do stuff like that down there.
No,
Uh,
no.
if they called you and said you're fighting in Brazil, is that something you do on a week's notice, or do you need more
Oh
time
man,
to get
that
security, get prepped?
that's something I've done on a week's notice. When they called me to fight Thiago Santos, I fought him on like 5 or 6 days notice down in Brazil. So I got off the phone. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. Just a few hours later, I was on a flight to Brazil. So yeah, I'll definitely do. I love Brazil. My wife is Brazilian. I speak a little bit of Portuguese. Love the culture down there. So whether they're with me or against me, it doesn't matter, man. I enjoy the vibe regardless.
Yeah, Brazil's one of my go-to places. I gotta get there. I gotta
You
go
gotta go.
visit. Yeah, I want to see Rio. It's definitely up there. You mentioned your kids were in the audience. What's something you'd tell parents of kids who are hesitant to put them in mixed martial arts? Obviously, I don't have an MMA background. I do a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but don't get me wrong, I am far from a cage fighter.
Sure.
Um, what's something you tell them, like, to encourage them? Like, this is great for kids.
Man, I think one of the best things about jiu-jitsu and boxing and kickboxing and stuff is, man, you really learn a lot about yourself. And, once you learn how to be comfortable being uncomfortable, like there's nothing in life that's going to happen to you that's worse than somebody bigger, stronger, faster than you sitting on your chest trying to choke you out. So if you can get comfortable in that situation, whatever life brings at you, you'll be able to handle that situation, I think, with a little bit more like confidence and, just, approach life totally different. Like some of the kids who come in the gym, man, they have zero confidence, zero athleticism, they're a mess. But after just a few months of training, man, they walk a little bit different. Their head's a little bit higher. Their chest is a little bit, poking out a little bit. So, it's cool to see that light and that transition turn on. So I would recommend that everybody, um, get their kid involved in, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, these things. And the cool thing about those sports are you don't have to, like football, you have to beat your head against somebody else's to get better. That's just how you get better at
Yeah.
football. But with MMA and boxing and jiu-jitsu and stuff, man, we can wrestle. I can get better. We can flow spar and go to the body and not take as much punishment to the head. There's just so many more avenues of safe training, and that will make your career last a lot longer as well than there is football. Football is like, luck is like, a large part of it.
So we'll Yeah. So your kids, do your kids do any martial arts or?
Yeah, both my boys, they haven't competed in like combat sports like wrestling, like kickboxing and boxing. They haven't competed in that, but man, they've done countless wrestling and jiu-jitsu tournaments, and they're just natural competitors. They love it. I don't force them to do it. They just kind of picked it up on their own, and you know, uh, thank God for me, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I find the same thing. Like I'm a swimmer, so but my little brother picked up the competitiveness from me. Now he's playing soccer overseas, so it's
Oh wow,
same sort of thing. Like it's what you instill in your kids, I guess. So it doesn't really matter the sport, whether it be combat, football, soccer, swimming. I
right?
think the important thing is that they have something that that they can work towards and they find that they're passionate about.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so in quarantine, what are you up to? What are you watching? What TV shows? What you gaming?
Uh,
What are you
Man,
into?
the boys are really into Fortnite, so I'll sit down and play a couple games with them just to, you know, uh, they're a little more vocal whenever they're playing, so they talk more, so it's easier to like have those conversations that parents have with their kids and just talk to them, goof off, and have a good time. Um, the wife and I just finished Ozark. The Tiger King, highly recommend
That's
anybody who
so
loves
good.
craziness. It's like
That's
over
so
the top craziness. Like
yeah.
if somebody told me that story without it being documented, I'd be like, man,
It didn't seem
yeah.
real, man. I didn't believe it at first. I was like, this has to be fake. But yeah, it's crazy. It's real people.
And man, they're actually scrolling through Netflix right now, and I just saw that Jeopardy has all their seasons on here. So I think for the rest of this lockdown, I may do nothing else but watch Jeopardy.
Yeah, there's no football and no sports. What do you support? I'm assuming obviously Crimson Tide, but what team do you support in football?
Man, college, I watch all the SEC teams, man. I just think it's the highest caliber of football. And the SEC is like the Southern teams. Um, Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, LSU, who just won the championship this past year. Um, I just think it's the highest caliber of college football that you can get. And then for like the NFL and stuff, pro ball, I really just watch, the guys who went to Bama just to see how they did.
If there's a obviously I'm just like I was doing a little bit of research before the call, and you won a national championship there with the Crimson Tide,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Back in 2009. What is that the highlight of your athletic career in general, or is there another thing that stands out, whether it be an MMA fight or
I mean, fighting in the UFC is, it's a little bit different, like team sports and fighting, because like team sports, it's a season. You spend the rest of the season, the rest of the year getting ready for the season. You have teammates. You have to depend on people. People depend on you and things. Fighting's a little bit different. There's really not a season. People have camps. I train year round. Um, winning a national championship is definitely like the pinnacle of college football, and that's what everybody wants to do is win a championship and all that other stuff. And the same goes for fighting. So, but I think that it's more rewarding fighting is than football is, for the fact that I guess I'm a pretty selfish person, and I like the team atmosphere of the training room. It kind of reminds me of like a locker room in the practice field, in terms of like the camaraderie and stuff. But when I go out there and compete um, in MMA, win, lose, or draw, that's all on me. And I think that that's the thing that I like the most, and it's probably a little bit more rewarding than winning football games.
what? We'll stick with the division here. What are your predictions on Adesanya and Costa?
Man, I don't think that's a tough one to pick. I don't think the cost is gonna um, pull the Romero stunt. He's just not capable of fighting like that. He's forward moving, you know, technical, power puncher. So, he's not gonna be able to just sit still. So, but he kind of moves straight forward. He's not really an angle cutter. So I think that Adesanya is gonna have the advantage because he's not going to be there as Paulo Costa marked this forward. I think he's very elusive. He's got long reach, so I think that Adesanya might get the better of that one.
So you're saying decision Adesanya?
He might put him out. I don't know, man. Romero didn't put him out. But he's never really been tested. Adesanya's been tested all of his last fights except for that Romero fight. So I think we've seen how resilient Adesanya can be and how he can dig deep and, pull it out. He'll definitely have better cardio. So, man, I think I'm going to go with Adesanya. Decision or, whether he finishes him or not, I don't know. Only time will tell that.
What, stupid question, but what's the prediction for your fight? Finish, knockout, decision, just get your hand raised? What's the goal there?
I mean, every time I go out there, step out there to fight, there's only one thing on my mind, and that's to put hands on people. So, I have a lot of faith and confidence in myself to go out there and get the job done in that fashion against Jocko. So, you expect a knockout every time I go out there and fight.
Yeah. Tim Williams is a great example of the way you fight. Is that the fight where if you're telling a fan, watch one of my fights, is that the one you point at, or is there another one that you point them towards?
Myself, I'm a big fan of the Thiago Santos fight. Even though it didn't end well for me, it was fun. Not too many people were willing to, get in the middle, trade punches, and see what happens. And it was just fun. They had everything in the fight: grappling, wrestling, submission attempts. I think there's no secret that we were both trying to take each other's heads off. And, we just went at it for 15 minutes. So, to me, that's my favorite fight so far.
Yeah, I like the Lyoto one because I thought it showed, you were undefeated, up and comer. And I thought it was your first big win. Regardless of what, the scorecard said, I thought you had won it. And I thought it really propelled you to a good spot in the division. So that was my favorite one in terms of legacy, but that fight was absolutely crazy. And the fact you took it on one week's notice in the scariest country in the world with the scariest fans, I think it tells a lot about your style of fighting. And hopefully we see that whenever it happens. So maybe next weekend, maybe 2 months from now. Who knows when it's happening? But wish you all the best, man. And thank you for taking the time. I'm still new to this, so it's not your ideal interview. It's more back and forth. So I appreciate you taking the time. And
my pleasure, man. Anytime.
Yeah. Well, all the best, and I'm rooting for you. Hopefully, you get that knockout.
Thanks, sir, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, good one.
Yeah, keep washing your hands, man. Don't want to get sick before that fight.
That's right.
All right, man.
You have a good one.